If you're not from Australia, you're probably thinking to yourself, what is this divine looking two-door coupe behind me? But if you are from Australia, you know it's a Monaro, or in this case, it's a 1976 two-door limited edition coupe. So let's do a bit of a review. I'm about to start modifying this one a little bit. If you've been watching up until now, the previous uploads, you'll see that I've got some pretty spicy gear that'll be going in this drivetrain. The body's going to stay the same, not going to cut and shut. Everything is bolt in, bolt out. I've not actually asked this before at the start of an upload, but I'd really appreciate it if you liked, commented or subscribed, just to support this one a bit and kick it through the ranks in the YouTube arena. Let's take a look. When it comes to these 1976 HX LE Coupes or Monaros, we'll get to that a little bit later. They all came out in this crimson burgundy or red metallic. There's a little bit of conjecture on what the actual color code and combination is for this car, and everyone seems to have their own opinion on it, just like the gold rims as well. It doesn't matter what color you paint them, someone will tell you that they're wrong. So they all look like this, except for a few. I think there was roughly about 20 that came with a vinyl top and about the same with a sunroof. Roughly 600 were built initially, but 20 of those were lost by fire. And this one, well, it's a little bit special because this is mine. So this isn't just a review of somebody else's car. This is a review of something that I know have driven and enjoyed over a period of about 15 years now. Me personally, I'm not a facts and figures kind of guy. I like them, but I don't really dig into the detail of that with a car because I either like it or I don't. I'm not brand biased. I can accept them all for the level that they're on and what they're designed to be. So this is a rough review. It's not a full detailed review of this car. That will come later. I just need to find the right one for it. We'll talk about that in a bit. Each of them came with this front air dam and what is commonly referred to as the duckbill wing. They all had gold honeycomb rims, factory with electric aerial, quadraphonic, meaning 4-speaker stereo, through an 8-track player, blacked out bezels and some chrome attributes where they can. Each of them were built on the original HQ Monaro body shell. The HQ Monaro was Australia's best-selling car up until the VE Commodore. So although the HX sedans had started to drift away from this shape a little bit with body incorporated rear lights and a couple other pieces, the HX LE Coupe / Monaro, I keep saying that, still ran the integrated tail lights within the bumper. A couple additions that this one has got that not all of them came out with, that were options from the factory, are your stone guards, caprice emblem and overriders. This one also did come with overriders on the rear, but at some point have been removed. Back on the gold rims, these are a polycast. They're a rubber compound molded to a steel rim. What that does is provides an incredibly quiet ride on the highway, taking out a lot of road noise that other tyres and rim packages don't. They came with a 14-inch, which is pretty common for the time. Pretty hard to get tyres for though these days, so I think a lot of people are drifting away from the 14-inch rims, and with these ones here being so controversial, many do get changed out. I've recently only put these back on the car. I've never really ran the vehicle with them, only putting them on at certain times. A, because I didn't really like them when I first got it, and I was trying to protect them because the paint is quite brittle and flaky. But I decided I'm going to buck that trend for a bit and run them, at least until these modifications are complete. These cars were designed under the watchful eye of Leo Peruno, and they didn't hit the ground running. Although there was quite a bit of hype around the release of these vehicles, they were being labelled as a parts bin special, rolling out the last of the shells, the last of some wheels, the last of some 8-track players that have been in the GM lineup, with some current styling from the HX GDS 4-door Monaro, and in keeping with the older HQ 2-door body shape. So add-ons from the current series with the ever true and desirable HQ shell at heart. Adding to that, the minor performance issues, which we'll talk about shortly with the driveline, that made them to be a really hard sell. They were actually designed to be a luxury coupe, not a sports vehicle like their predecessors were. These weren't raced in Bathurst like the previous Monaros. The racing had been pretty well shifted over to the Tiranas, and Australia was looking for more family-based cars, so they wanted to use 4 doors instead of 2s. And this here is the last generation of 2-door Monaros, or under the Monaro banner that Holden would produce until the early 2000s. So there was a very long gap between an Australian 2-door Holden performance vehicle from the late 70s through to the early 2000s. Let's talk about the driveline. All of them came out with the Holden 308. That's an Australian built engine. They were mated to the ever so strong Turbo 400 and 10-bolt LSD differential. So what does that mean in 1976? Well, it means you're going to get a pretty choked up, pollutioned engine. This is the first year that the Australian design rules, the ADRs, really clamped down on pollution, and that choked these engines up. That meant they were producing less power than the previous years gone by. And when you mount that up to a Turbo 400, which is quite a power-hungry gearbox, it's going to feel sluggish. And that's exactly what was being reported on these cars. But if you compare how these cars go from 1976 to something modern, even like a Mazda 6 or something like that, your Mazda 6 is probably going to feel far more nimble and far more powerful, I hate to use that word, but far more powerful than what this here did, a big bruiser V8 back in the 1970s. Compared to your American stuff, obviously we're running less cubes, but similar drivetrain throughout. Although I've watched a few things on the American cars, and very rarely do they seem to come with LSD. So that was something like quite unique to Australia, with a lower horsepower motor running an LSD, even on lower spec vehicles. Moving to the inside, they all came with Cinnabar red, crushed velour interior. Quite striking, I actually think. It is a lot of red. I've sort of broken it up with some black seat covers, A, to protect the fabric, but just to break it up a little bit as well. But it is a lot of red. As you can see, they were really going for that luxury feel. And I think they did hit the nail on the head. You've got to remember, this is 1976. Electric mirrors, driver control too, air conditioning from factory, and equipped with an electric aerial. AM radio. Unfortunately, I don't have the original Pioneer 8-track player, and I'm just running a dirty old Kenwood that I slid into that position when I was just a little bit younger. We do have a number badge on the glove box, although never actually designated numbers. That's what it was for. And a burl, walnut, interior cluster. These running GDS style gauges. So you've got temp, fuel, oil, pressure, and battery voltages, along with RPM tacho and a touch of class with an analog clock. The burl walnut also featured on the gear shift surround as well. All of this accompanied with some chrome trim and the sports GDS steering wheel. Makes it quite a nice place to actually be. And I must say, compared to other 2-door Monaros which I've ridden in, these ride a lot better. The HQ style seats were more thin sports back, early 70s, whereas these are more of a luxury cushion type material, making it a lot smoother ride. And I feel the updated, HX style dash compared to the more simplistic HQ, with this nice HX center console, full wraparound dash. I really do feel personally that is an upgrade. Integrated air conditioning, as you can see by the vents across the dash. So there's no undermount units here. None of it looks like an afterthought. feels like it was built to be like this, which, well, it actually was. So how does the passenger feel? Well, seat in the same position as the driver. They've got an extra 6 to 8 inches of leg room. You can stretch right out as a passenger. Sit back feeling nice and comfortable. Replicated. Same from the driver's side. Electric window adjustment there. Originally, they were cued to have it down here in the brochures and stuff like that. But that's not where it ended up. Good glove box, you know, service manuals, plenty of room, unlike your modern day equivalents where you can fit in your manuals and maybe a pack of spare knives, plastic knives for your road trip. As with all these old cars, an ashtray wouldn't be complete without an ashtray and a cigarette lighter. This one, yeah, lightly smoked in. Never since I've owned it. Good sun visors. These like to puff out and distort a fraction with age. It's not unique to this car, that's just what they all do. But it's a nice spot to sit. When the aircon's working, the aircon is good, or good enough. Center console, you know, slot in a couple 8 tracks back in the day. It's probably smaller than a modern car, or most modern cars, although some don't even come with a center console, you know, on the little compact savers. But let's jump in the back seat and take a look from there. So to get in the back seat, flick this lever, then you get full tilt on your seat. Pretty easy to get into. And a relatively comfortable space to sit. I'm a good 5'10". You know, you're not going to be stretching out too much, but if that seat was a little bit further forward, you're pretty comfortable. You know, decent-ish headroom. If you're pushing 6 foot, you might be struggling. Again, electric windows, little light that comes on when the doors are open. Shoulder seat belts in the rear for the outers, and just the standard lap sash for the person in the middle. And once again, you can't forget the smokers. Ashtray, also lightly smoked in, and your cigarette lighter, slightly used. But that's about it for the cabin. It's not a, you know, it's not a flashy space. This is 1976, and you feel like you're in 1976, which is a good thing. The boot on these, enormous compared to modern day standards, but it's the size of a, you know, sedan equivalent. So I often run, and as you can see by the wheel marks, 2 spares in here before I was putting these honeycombs back on. So that way if I did get a flat, I could run 2 of the same size tyre. Originally this would have all been carpeted, but you know, as time goes on, things get changed, don't get put back how they were. Would have also had an electric antenna. Unfortunately, this one has been removed. Quite hard to get a hold of an original one. The original ones, they had what's called the bullet tip, whereas this one is just a fairly generic style. So the bullet tip actually came to, you know, a coned point. Now that we've gone over it a bit, I'm sure you're keen for me to take this out for a test drive and explain what it's like to be in. I've got you guys mounted up over there on the new quad lock setup. I'm hoping that works out well for when I do these driving reviews instead of jamming in with a stick over on the side. But let's hit the highway and talk about how it goes. So I'm not going to do any fast 0 to 100s or anything like that because I've actually covered that already on previous uploads. If you'd like to see them, go and have a look. Lighting is pretty average. The sun's just going down and we've got some clouds, but we're cruising. We are moving along, and just like that, we're at 100 Ks, very effortlessly. Gets up to speed, just as any modern car does. This one, well, it suffers from a little bit of wind noise. The seals around the doors, because they're a frameless window, they're a little bit tired, and I'm hoping that's not coming through too bad. But it's a nice place to sit. Good, comfortable seats. You know, you can really feel yourself working into them. The suspension in this, you know, it's a little bit old as well, but you can't blame the car for that. 1976. That's 49 years ago. 50 years next year, this car was released. I'm really hoping that they make a bit of a song and dance about it. I'd really like to get along and celebrate that. It's a milestone. These are now a collectible car. So, plenty of room. Nice driving position. These sports steering wheels, they're quite a comfortable steering wheel. They're not thick like the modern ones, but I'm okay with that. You can really feel the car. And with the older style suspension, they can get a little bit floaty, but you really feel connected and like you're driving it, not like the modern equivalents where you're just a passenger behind the wheel and the car does everything for you, does emergency braking. You've got to actually pay attention and drive this car. In the cab with the car and exhaust, which is basically a standard system, it's aftermarket, but it's a twin 2-inch through factory manifolds. It's quiet in here other than the wind noise, and it's a shame that I do have this wind noise because I'd like to have done a comparison compared to a modern car and this one here. But I can't do it with the modern one, but I did do a quick check with this one here. And we're sitting at about 74, 75 dB, and like it's not overly loud. Like the ambient noise is just the whistle. You can't hear much road noise. As I said, with these honeycomb rims, they really take it out and smooth that sound. They also provide a nice firm ride. It's hard to explain, but the swapping between the previous alloy wheels that I had on it and these honeycombs, it just feels more planted and firm. I don't know, that's just what it does. But back to talking about the cabin. It's really comfortable, everything's within reach. These 1970s dashes, late 70s dashes, Holden and Ford, even Chrysler, like, you've just got to love them. They've got some character. They're not like all the new ones where it's just a digital screen, couple push buttons. It's just basic, it's analog. Who doesn't love watching an analog gauge go up and down as you're shifting through the gears or, you know, accelerating? There's just something about it. Every button, like it has a crisp feel to it. When you press it, you just know that you're pressing something that was made to last. And these cars do last. These older cars, they have their failures. They get a bit brittle with the plastic components and stuff like that. But compared to modern day stuff, I really think these will stand the test of time in comparison. Got good arm reach, only basic adjustments in the chairs. Tilt it forward, back, slide forward, back. There's no rising or lowering of the chair. There's no lumbar support. It just is what it is in that respect. You got the flick switch or the tab on the side to fully swing forward the driver's seat and the passenger seat, so that way it's easier egress and access for those sitting in the rear. The rear space, it is a little bit limited, especially when the seats are back in a comfortable position for the driver. But it's not terrible. Like, it looks worse than what it actually is. But the way you really sit down deep in those rear chairs, it's very comfortable. Other than that, it's all nuts and bolts. The mirrors aren't electric. You got to play with them on your own. And they're only small, really small compared to modern cars. And that's the thing that you really notice when you get in these vehicles. Just rolled over 230,000 Ks. There's a milestone for me. I think I've done about 7,000 of them, so it doesn't do a lot of driving, which is going to change. As I was saying, the mirrors, compared to modern day mirrors, you've really got to look and bobble around in them to get the same field of view and vision that you would out of a modern vehicle. Certainly an adjustment. Rear vision mirror, much the same as any modern car in size. It doesn't dull like the modern ones, but you've got your little flick down lever, which creates that 3D or hologram effect, I guess is probably the better word for it, to redirect that light from in your eyes. Just one single stalk, indicators and wiper control all in one. Just a nice basic cabin. But what these cars do that you don't get out of a lot of modern ones is they get looks. People want to see these things on the road. You can't just take this for a drive and not have people having a look. And if you pull over, you've got to be ready for someone to sit up, have a chat, tell you they used to own one. No, they didn't. But they'll tell you they used to own one, but who cares? You're just having a conversation. And so long as you're not taking it out every weekend, it's invited conversation, it's easy conversation. You can sit there, spin a yarn with an old bloke for 15 to 20 minutes without even trying. Brings back memories. Brings back core memories of vehicles for people, men and women. It's not just the blokes. And I think that's the thing I like about these older cars, is just the memories that they bring back. Because they're not cookie cutter. I feel like with a lot of the newer cars, you could be driving one or any of them and they all just feel very similar, especially in the, sedan and SUV range. They're designed to suit a wide audience. They're not niche marketed. But as you can see, I'm cruising along the highway, 100k an hour, plenty of comfort, plenty of room. I just wish the aircon was working. But anyway, that's only an easy fix. Just need to pull my finger out and get that done. We'll turn around up here and head back. I don't think there's too much else to talk about on the inside, because it is pretty basic. Well, there's the first braking. There's not as good of a pedal feel. There we go. There as you would find in a modern car. That's something I hadn't touched on yet because I hadn't had to brake because we've just been cruising the highway. Just then, in this little slip lane here, getting ready to turn around, that car slowed down to have a look. You can see them braking their necks to take a gander. I'll turn onto the highway here, give it a little bit, but nothing too much, just to show you that it does get up to speed. But do go back and watch those previous uploads I've done. I've done a couple 0 to 100s, both with some minor changes, just to show some difference. There we go, at 100. Easy. So whilst we are cruising back, I just wanted to make it clear again, this isn't a complete facts and figures upload on the HX LE Coupe. It's more of a what it's like to drive, what it's like to be in, and how it is as an actual car. I do want to do a facts and figures upload, but I want to do that with a showroom example that is original. I don't want to do that with one this one isn't butchered, but it's not genuine complete. It's missing some articles, and before I do a complete facts and figures version, I'd love a true, genuine, complete, 100% original vehicle, so I can show you just how good these cars were, because they were really underappreciated at the time when they came out, and unjustifiably so too, I believe. But I fell into the trap when I was looking to buy an older two-door. I was looking for a HQ GTS, and that was what I wanted, no right or wrong about it. And then I just got sick of waiting to find the right one. Then this came up, was in my budget. I just thought I'm going to take the chance, and I haven't regretted it one day. I'm probably going to do an upload on the controversy around these cars as well, just to give the full circle on what it's like to drive. I'll find a genuine article, and then I'll go through the history. I think it deserves to be broken down into individual sectors to really tell that full story. And I cannot say enough how much of a smile driving something like this puts on your face. Get them out, drive them and enjoy them. I need to take my own advice on that. Do not get me wrong, I don't drive my old cars near enough as I should, but I have started creeping into that with my early 90s days as a driver, and I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it. And it's inspiring me and pushing me to really want to get in and do these cars up that I've got so I can enjoy them one by one. When the sun comes through the window, it really pops on this walnut burl. It's painted plastic, let's be serious. Would have been lovely if it was walnut, but it's not. It really does pop in the dash with the black accents. Remember the fake Allen keys in the dash? It's also a bit of a laugh. But it was the 70s and it was Australian auto engineering, so I guess there was a little bit of a keeping up with the Joneses, but not actually executing it very well. The other problem with these cars is parts are really hard to come by. The window winders, or the electric window buttons, they're a slightly different mould to other cars of its type. The interior fabric, pretty hard to come by. The walnut burl, dash, and centre console pieces, only used on this and the HX SLEs. But the HX SLEs are slightly different because they had some badges mounted. It's all a little bit unique, you know, the vinyl. It's all just a little bit different. And that making it a little bit different makes everything a lot dearer and harder to come by when you do need to replace them. So as I touched on a little bit earlier, these were poorly received when they first come out. People were sort of thinking, it's not a muscle car, it's not a Monaro, it doesn't deserve the name. Well, it didn't actually get the name Monaro from the factory when it was released. It was a coupe, it was a limited edition coupe, but as society has developed and matured over time, they're now vastly considered Monaro by car enthusiasts, and why shouldn't they be? They were built off the original HQ Monaro body shape. But there was questions around its manhood. Is it truly a muscle car? The pollution gear dropping the horsepower. Factory air conditioning, factory power steering. A man does not need that in his muscle car. But yet today, that is all shifting. Everyone is installing all of this equipment aftermarket. They're going to aftermarket air conditioning, aftermarket electric windows, aftermarket whatever they can do to make themselves more comfortable. Whilst they are all integrating this stuff into a car that wasn't designed for it. So there is no grafting anything in it. It all looks like it should be there and you're not hodgepodging a vehicle together. So in today's standard, this is a muscle car. This is a Monaro. But tell me in the comments what you think. I can't wait to see it. This is my rough review of the Holden HX LE Monaro.